Hi, and welcome to a new conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about how to gain hope in healing. If you're a regular to my conversations on how to live a better story, then welcome back. It's really nice to see you again. If you're new to my conversations, well, just subscribe, and it's really nice to have you here. Thank you for joining me. Today, if you don't know who I am, I'm Debbie Clement-Large. I'm an international creative life coach. I'm a Heal Your Life teacher, and I'm a certified assertiveness coach. And I am really thrilled today to be joined by a good friend of mine. It's Christine Eckery. She lives on the east coast of the States. She's a mind-body fitness coach and an orthopedic massage therapist, and she has a fantastic business. So I'm really pleased. Thank you for joining me today, Christine.
It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. That's all right, my pleasure. So we're going to be talking about getting hope in healing, because that's a really biggie, isn't it? It's always good to feel good about our health when we are healthy, but it's really hard to change that, how we feel about ourselves and our body, and when we're not well or we're not feeling in best health.
Yeah, time and time again, I notice that if someone doesn't already have a framework, even if it's just a glimmer of hope, it really makes things difficult to heal, whether that's psychologically or physically. Hope is so critical to the whole process.
So our hope really comes from the way we think. Because
I think it's feelings too.
Yeah.
Anticipating that you can move with freedom and freely once again.
Because really it's the words that we say that give us the feelings that then power the change.
Because they really do feed each other.
Yeah, they do.
Remarkably.
Yeah. So for me, I've had a few injuries. I've hurt my back, and I have had 3 accidents on my back, which was great. Back is all about support, especially the lower back. So that's the bit for me, and it's all around the connection as well with money. I know I've had it doesn't matter how much money I've had in the past. I've always had a bit of a poverty consciousness thinking from my upbringing, which has been part of my personal growth. So
sure.
Kind of all fits in for me. Yeah. But our thoughts definitely have a different effect on different parts of our bodies.
Very much so. I've done a couple of different things, both in the psychology arena and also with a practice that I studied in Northern California. And different practitioners, through their work with individuals, have found that, different parts of the body are connected to different issues in life. And my takeaway pretty much was, the body is a metaphor for the way we think and of our own personal life experiences and histories.
Yeah, and I've heard it exactly the same way, being a mirror.
There you go.
For how we think. Yeah. So there's a whole thing, isn't there, around epigenetics?
There is. They're finding more and more about that. It's fascinating.
It really is, isn't it? And I like the work that Bruce Lipton's done around that, because he's done a whole thing about showing how our cell behavior changes with our thoughts, and that we can reshape our DNA, that actually it's not fixed at birth, that we can change the way our body functions. And even when we think about the stress, flight and fight response that we have when we get stressed, that has an effect on our body, because it shuts down certain bits, shuts down our digestion, shuts down our cell regrowth. And if we keep firing all that sort of thing, what are we doing to our bodies?
Well, yeah, we really send out a really difficult signal that we're, quote unquote, supposed to live by. And, it's interesting that over at Johns Hopkins in the Baltimore, Maryland area, they're actually doing a lot of research about epigenetics and its impact on cancer.
Oh, wow.
And really looking at treatments that are epigenetically related.
Yeah.
And working with people to change that all around.
Wow. So what sort of things are they giving out as ways to help and to heal?
I just know that they're doing a lot of research with it now. I haven't looked into their protocols particularly, but I actually, one of the gentlemen that I have studied a lot with in this area, his name is John Balin, and he's written a lot and lectures a lot on how the brain reacts to trauma. And it's his brother at Johns Hopkins that's involved with the epigenetic work.
Mm.
And so I know about it in that way.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating because I know sort of the work Louise Hay did back in the 80s around healing your body was actually around from her coaching and seeing different client work that she could see she mapped that correlation between the way people think and the physical symptoms that they were having. And I know it's not 100% accurate, but
Right.
it can be pretty accurate, isn't it? And then that's followed on by work that Mona Lisa Schultz has done, the physician, around looking how medicine, affirmations and intuition can help heal your body. And I know there's lots of other people that have done things. So there is hope really to help us to heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned fight or flight. I talk to my clients all the time about, I guess, what I could call short, shallow breaths. And I think a lot of us, if you really kind of become mindful about how you're breathing, you notice that your breaths only go into the top of your chest.
Yeah.
And so it's those short, shallow breaths that are actually signaling to the body, hey, get ready. You may need to fight or flee soon. So those short, shallow breaths kind of pump the sympathetic nervous system, which means that all of your muscles get tightened. You have a narrow alertness and attentiveness, so you don't always take in the full picture. And your muscles are ready to go, and you're running all the body chemistry to fight or flee. And then it becomes all the more difficult when that's how we live for day after day after day. It's fatiguing to the body. And moreover, it's really difficult on the muscles because they're always tightened, always ready to go. And muscles really need an ebb and a flow to really live optimally. And in fact, to keep the lymph system, which is connected to the immune system, fully functioning. If your muscles are always tight, your immune system cannot function properly. That whole system depends on muscles relaxing and tightening to pump lymph through the system to clear the body of its different disease states, or the bacteria and viruses and the like.
So it has a massive effect then. So thinking a fearful thought, which is stress really, because most of the time when we get stressed, it can be a combination of our own making. We can be afraid that something will happen that never does.
Right.
So we fire off all those chemical changes. We have all that stuff that's then tensing up our muscles, like you said, ready to go.
Right. The body's trying to be there for you.
It is.
It's trying to be there in anticipation of what you're thinking through. So
it's not then digesting your food properly, and that all isn't working properly.
No.
Your cell regrowth then isn't working properly. And I remember, and I'm not a medical specialist, but I can remember, I'm sure it was Bruce Lipton talking about the telomeres on the end of your DNA, which are a bit like the plastic bit you get on the end of shoelaces to stop them fraying.
Oh, interesting.
And that has an effect on that, because the telomeres stop working and then your DNA strands start fraying, which means they're not regenerating, and therefore that can end up shortening our lifespan and things like that.
I'm not familiar with that. That's fascinating.
It's
That's
fascinating.
Absolutely.
And all on the basis of kicking off thoughts and being afraid of things that really we didn't need to be afraid of.
Right.
So
we are unique in the animal kingdom with our ability to, shall we say, overthink.
We sure do.
Just grind it.
See, in my coaching practice, I see that all the time, that fearful, our own limitations, I've got my own as well that I've, had to work through. That's feels like our life's work really. And I help other people to get through their limitations through their thinking, victim consciousness, poverty consciousness, all the different things that we limit and trap ourselves with. But you must see an awful lot then, the physical stuff, where it's gone past the thinking bit, but actually then turned into some sort of physical problem.
Well, it becomes their habits. which
Right.
in turn becomes pain patterns, which
Uh,
can in turn necessitate the need for a hip replacement or a knee replacement and different things.
mm.
So,
So
you know,
how do
it's
you help? How do you get people then from moving from a place of, because when you're well, it's easy to think well, but when you're not well, how do people then gain hope that they can regain that health?
well, it's kind of got an odd little trajectory in it, in that my practice involves a 5-2-2 system. And so, what seems to be at the beginning of regenerating mobility for the body is, in fact, resistance. So,
Resistant thinking, you mean?
you know,
What's
resistance in the body. So, for example, if you were to come to me and you had a shoulder issue,
mm,
um, I would facilitate you trying to move your arm. I need to be back further, right? To say, open your arm outward. And
yeah,
rather than allowing you to make that full movement, I would resist that. You're only using 20% of your strength, but I'm going to resist your ability to open your arm. And
right,
then it creates a really interesting dynamic. One, it's a 5-2-2, so it's 5 seconds of resistance, it's 2 seconds of zen or bounce, and then it's a 2-second stretch. And that 5-2-2 does a couple of things. One, it activates gamma motor neurons and spindle cells, and you have to have them activated to reset the muscle tension.
right, okay.
And then the other piece of that I've learned about through my studies of neuropsychology
Mm,
is it also activates a part of the brain called the ACC. And that's a big problem solving part of the brain that is also a bridge between the lower part of the brain that's all about the body and emotions and the upper part of the brain that's all about reappraising a situation, kind of considering the possibilities and putting a plan in place to make changes. And so, and I've talked to John Balin about this theory of mine. That's how the brain gets engaged in that whole resistance protocol. The brain loves to solve problems. We instinctually understand from all of our ancestry that it's really the key to survival is figuring out, if this happens, what do we need to do, kind
mm,
of a situation. So when I create resistance, I now have a problem for the brain and the body to solve. I've impeded the movement despite the fact that the brain has given instructions for the muscles to move, and the muscles are trying to move, but they can't. So
mm,
the brain and the muscles have to work together to figure out how to solve the problem to be able to move. And that's the nice thing about, kind of the bounce is it's really opening the communication between the brain and the muscles. Then you actually facilitate that movement
mm.
to show the body, oh, look, we can move. And the body, it's kind of one of those quirky things that the brain and the body respond to remarkably well. And it was kind of curious. It was one of those things that I put in practice, and I thought, I don't understand it at first, but it's quirky and it keeps working. And then a client said, what I love about your practice is it gives me hope again.
Oh, wow.
And so that's really become the framework of the work that I do. I understand that I need to hold in place a vision and an understanding that this person's body truly can move smoothly and efficiently without pain. And
Mm,
then through a process of working together, we open up possibilities. We help an individual find out that, oh, good, there are options. And oh my goodness, there's a pathway.
mm.
So then, Hebb in Canada once said neurons that fire together wire together. And time again, I'm absolutely certain that it goes for muscles as well.
Mm,
Muscles that fire together wire together.
mm.
And it really becomes just a great practice.
Mm. No, that's really interesting.
It's very rewarding. I mean, it's really nice when people can kind of reclaim their bodies
Mm.
and reclaim their ability to move without pain. You know, when you
Mm.
live day to day with pain, you just make assumptions about all the things you can't do for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And in fact, we're working together to say, actually, that doesn't have to be the case. And here's a pathway that we can work on together so that, yeah, you can live the life you want to live when and how you want to live it.
So the interesting in all that is, you said that you doing that 5-2-2 actually helps give them hope. So there's different things around that, you know, the whole sayings that sometimes you've got to believe it before you see it, that we have to think certain things before they can manifest, that we need to, you know, I'm talking about, you know, not just our health, but, you know, in general, our dreams and what we want, we have
Sure.
to really see it and imagine it. So does that, I'm just wondering, you know, how much, whether that's really difficult when you're in a painful situation where really you have to see a little bit of physical movement for your thought processes and your belief to shift in order for you to hope. So it's difficult to shift that thinking from actually I know I've got the ability to sort of to allow my body to heal, but it's difficult to believe, therefore I just have to do it a tiny little step at a time with somebody like yourself.
Well, yeah, there's a couple things that I think about in that respect. I'm always looking for windows of possibility and windows of opportunity. And so the nice thing about this work is a lot of times people come in with a posture or a position with their body that's effectively frozen. It's their habit that, you know, they're holding on to it because they have the belief that it will never move again, so to speak. Or maybe it will, but I'm not thinking it will. But we're kind of coming in from the back door, and we're working with the body first and letting the brain catch up and the mind catch up to what we're doing. So it is very body-centric, and we're just working with resistance that kind of co-ops the brain to getting involved. And so the body can create movement without pain through this process, and then kind of pull the brain along and say, see, it does work. See, that did work. And it's really an interesting process too, because I find that a big piece of it is building confidence. So a lot of times it's taking those very baby steps that let the body and the brain catch up to, oh my gosh, that does work. You know, we do have this possibility in our lives again. And I think the body is a great way to backdoor into changing the way the mind is thinking about things.
So really we could power that up with something like a round of affirmations, to shifting your thinking patterns from this isn't going to work, I'm never going to change this, to actually there is hope to get this moving properly again. But then also maybe to understanding how our thinking might have created that in the first place.
True enough.
Where we can actually analyze, well, what does a frozen shoulder mean? You know, why, you know, am I it's a bit like when we put on weight, isn't it, that we often are protecting ourselves in some way from something.
Right.
Or it's almost like giving ourselves an extra little bit of distance between myself and yourself because I'm a bit bigger.
Right. Yeah.
So, but once you start, so once you understand why are you needing protection, and you start working through that and releasing it, then you can find naturally the weight will drop off over time.
Yeah, and the nice thing is the body can sometimes make the shift, before you realize why it got there in the first place. And so you let things catch up with the fact that you're moving pain-free, and then you can kind of settle on things. The brain loves meaning, and the brain loves value. So I often encourage people that as we are making positive advances, and especially when they're working at home, when it's working right, you want to do a victory dance. You know, you want to get the emotions involved, you want to get the brain involved in celebration. And you have the body moving, and so you're really trying to integrate, and then to take a moment and say, this is why I love this. This is why this has value in my life, because now I get to do all of these things, and this is why it has meaning in my life. I'm still young. I can still do what I want to do. I mean, not young per se, but still mobile, and I can keep up and do what I want to do, kind of a thing, rather than saying, oh, I'm on my way to the grave, so I might as well just keep stiffening up because I'm on my way. It's just a whole different dynamic to live by.
And I think what you said is absolutely spot on, where you say it's the feelings that are important, because we hear things like affirmations and the way we talk to ourselves, and actually it's not the words we're using, it's the feelings that we're generating.
They got to have both, don't they?
Yeah.
You've done a lot of great work on affirmations.
Well, the way we talk to ourselves, because I mean, affirmations are great, and we've got to remember that they can work really well, but they can also be a bit of a sticking plaster over the top. We've got to get to the root of why something is happening in our lives. But actually, it's about knowing that everything we think 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is either a positive or a negative thing against our body. We don't just have a couple of affirmations that we say, I don't know, 20, 30 times a day and all's going to be well. This is actually getting to understand our thinking and changing the way we think, and understanding the power that our words and our feelings that they generate, because that is massive. And you're seeing that physically as well.
Right. Well, it's most basic. The brain, approaches things or withdraws from things. So if you are living by the framework of that hurts and that causes me trouble, the brain and the body are going to withdraw. And you really need to be able to approach and be present to be able to recognize that there's a problem and kind of bring in resources and, what might be small movements at first to be able to solve the problem and restore movement and mobility and, greater happiness day to day. So how do you lead somebody through kind of framing up their affirmations?
What, to create some, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to end this in a minute, but just really quickly, because I'd love a last word from you before we go. But yeah, affirmations, it's really about, they've got to be in the positive, and they've got to be about what we want. And if we are in pain and we're saying that we want good health, and actually that feels too big a leap, then we can be willing to have that good health. Because it's a smaller step. But you also have to say, I am, I can, I do, or it always starts with a positive, and it's always something that's personal to you that creates, as you were saying earlier, that feeling of having what you want. So if we're talking about a pain-free existence, or the mobility to get back into sports again, or whatever it is, that actually the words are personal to you that generate that feeling. And then you can back that up with positive imagery in your mind, seeing what you're going to be doing. And we know that even when we're really strongly imagining something, we can be firing up certain muscle groups.
Sure.
So there's a positive, movement and all of that. And all you're doing with that self-talk all the time is actually moving your belief and shifting the way you're thinking from a more negative limiting place to a more positive, I can affect this change. And it's actually amazing what you can do. There's so many studies about the placebo effect, that actually when people feel that they've had medicine or they've had intervention, they're actually, oh yeah, things are working so much better now. But in reality, they haven't. It's just their thought that they have that has changed so much. So just on last note, Christine, can you offer any last hope in healing to the people watching, and how they can gain a little bit more hope?
I think first you have to, I guess I have framed it as kind of, one way to think about it is you kind of look around and see what other people are doing, right? And then just realize, well, that could be a possibility for me, right? And then with a possibility, what's a small shift? What's a small move that I could make that would start to mimic or mirror that kind of a thing? And then as you take those small steps, own each and every one and just go, oh, look at that. That's working for me. That feels so much better. I wonder what other possibilities are out there. And then you start to look at more possibilities, and then you see there's options. And then from options, you go, oh, there's a choice. And with a choice, you have preferences. And then so with that, what ends up starting out as very small, small steps become a whole pathway to completely change your life and open up to just not only new realms of possibility, but in fact, day-to-day living and being. And my big thing is to help people figure out how to live their day-to-day lives the way they want to, and more particularly in pain freedom.
And that's amazing, because really that's creating like physical affirmations almost.
Truly it is. That's a nice way to frame it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As I do a lot with people's thought processes and their beliefs, and you're doing much more with the physical, and I love that. That's such great synergy between the two.
Truly it does, doesn't it?
So thank you so much for joining me today for this. Well, I've had such a good time. This has been such a lovely conversation.
It has been Here we go.
So thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thank you very much for joining us today. It's great that you've taken your time out of your day to watch this, and I hope you've gained some hope and healing as well, and your journey to creating greater and better health for yourself. So if you want to join me for more conversations to help you to live the story that you wish to tell, then why not subscribe to my YouTube channel? And I look forward to catching up with you very soon. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye.
See you.